Okay.
Hi, we're here today with David Rose from Just One Organics, who supplies the raspberry crystals and bumble roots, raspberry hibiscus mint drink mixes. Thank you so much for talking with us today, David.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Uh, and love to start just hearing a little bit about your background and the background of Just One Organics.
Well, okay. So thanks for asking, Sarah. And Just One Organics is a brand of the Unified Field Corporation. And we started this a few years ago, quite a few years ago, to really address an issue that we see a gap in the regenerative food movement. And so while so many good things are happening, one of the gaps that we see is there really wasn't a lot of large scale daily buying of organic regenerative food from local farmers on a daily basis distributed across the whole country and even in other countries. That part of the movement, that wholesale, large scale daily buying of organic food, we felt if that could happen, then that could pay farmers to grow so much more food faster, and we could accelerate the progress of the movement. So we looked at how could we do that, and so we came up with the idea to add value to the food by drying it and also preserve the value in time so that we have time to sell it anywhere in the world because it's so light, it ships easily, and so that seemed to make sense. So we started figuring out how to do this, and we spent a lot of years, a lot of good people helping us, and now we're ready to start making this food in big quantities and selling it. Well, along the way, we found this technology that nobody was using to make lots of different kinds of dried food purees. And they were using it for algae and paint and chemicals and nutraceuticals and food coloring, but they weren't using it for food. And we wondered why, and then we started playing with it and realized that because it's so gentle, that it preserves the not just the nutrition like some of the other ones do really well, but also the flavor, fragrance, color, and in some cases as a crystal, as a flaky crystal, even an attractive texture that as a combined value, none of the other foods were doing, the other technologies. So we figured out, oh, the reason it does that is because it's super gentle, so we call it gentle drying. But it's hard to work with some of the foods because you have to get it really smooth, really thin, the puree, or it just won't work. So we realized that's why nobody's doing it, because it's not easy. So we spent a long time figuring out how to do that. And we have this technology now and these methods of pureeing and this beautiful food. And so now we're ready to go.
Well, I'm so glad you're in business. We love the raspberry crystals. Can you show everyone what they look like? They're just so beautiful. Every time we do a production run, we just are staring at them. They just look like little jewels almost.
This
Can
one's
you
not showing because of the
can you
lights.
move around the raspberry? Yeah, just to kind of show a little bit. They're so sparkly and they're clear. And at first we thought we were going to have to like grind them up into a powder, but they dissolve so well. We just add them into the drink mixes and then they just add this beautiful color and then they dissolve so well and add an amazing flavor.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, they're fun to work with and they are really attractive. And it's really because we take all the water out in 4 minutes at about 135 degrees. And that gentle process allows the concentration of the beauty of the food. That's just what happens.
mm.
Yeah.
And you talked about the company really being formed to help accelerate the regenerative agriculture movement. Can you let me know what your description of regenerative agriculture, which is also a focus for us at Bumbleroot, and what your vision of an ideal food system would look like, or the vision of the food system that you would like to see going forward?
Well, it's actually a food system that we will create, all of us together, because we have to and we all want to. And I always tell people that the four goals of that food system are, first, that organic regenerative farmers are really what's happening in the world in the future, that degenerative agriculture that actually poisons the food in our bodies and the environment is a thing of the past. So that's a goal, and that will happen at some point. And we just want it to happen as fast as possible. The other three are that we're all eating good food, that we're not, and that our population is well and vital and not declining as it is now as a result of eating better food that's grown in good soil, where there's a healthy microbiome that's nourishing those plants and helping them sequester more carbon, which is the third goal of a regenerative food system, is that we're reversing climate change. So a healthy, really good carbon-rich soil, organic regenerative farm will be sequestering or pulling out of the air between about 0.55 and maybe even over 2 tons of CO2 per acre per year. So then climate change becomes a math problem that we can solve. And so we need to do that. And agriculture, regenerative ag, carbon-rich farming is really the only way that we're going to do that. And then the fourth aspect of a regenerative food system is that there's no more hunger. And we can do that too, because in most parts of the world, we throw away, and especially in this country, we throw away 25% of what we grow at the farm. We throw away other food at the store, and we throw away other food in our homes and institutions. But on the farm, we throw away a quarter of what we grow. And most of that is good food. It just doesn't meet the visual grocery store standard. So because we puree it, we can buy that food at a discount, which helps the farmer because they were going to throw it away, and helps us because we can buy their food as part of our mission. And our gross profit margin when we buy food at a discount expands, and we can take that extra gross margin and use it to give food away. So the last point of a regenerative food system is that wasted food becomes no more hunger, and not just filling people's bellies, but filling them with these crystals and these gorgeous, delicious kinds of organic, healthy food. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that our microbiome on this planet is the key to pretty much every form of well-being that we know, whether it's personal or economic or ecological well-being. And we're all connected to it, whether we know it or not, because we have 10 times the number of microbes on and in our bodies as we have cells. And if we're holding in our hand a handful of really super healthy soil, we're holding more microbes than there are people on Earth. So that network is billions of years old, and it has a symbiosis with the plant kingdom where they exchange sugars that the plants make in photosynthesis. About 85% of the sugars that plants produce, they put into the soil to feed the microbiome. And the microbiome in turn feed about 95% of the nutrients that are in our plants come from that microbiome, moving those nutrients into the roots and up into the plants. So if we're growing food in dead soil that's sprayed and tilled and it's just not alive anymore, we're eating basically a lookalike, sometimes poison lookalike carbohydrate of what should be a nourishing food. And when we grow that soil and grow our food in healthy, carbon-rich, microbe-rich soil, then we're getting what we need to be healthy. And we're also healing our planet. So that's a regenerative food system. And it's also really profitable because healthy people work better and don't get sick as much. And instead of spending $4.5 or $5 trillion a year in this country on disease care, we can use that money for other things. Even a little bit of it would make a huge difference. So prosperity and wellness go hand in hand. So it's regenerative in every aspect, and we're going to do that, all of us together.
It's a beautiful vision, and I agree with all of those points. And your vision of the illustration of the microbiomes and the related to the soil health, it just brought me back to a speech that I heard Gabe Brown, the regenerative farmer from North Dakota, give last year, where he mentioned that there are oranges now that are being grown in dead soil that don't register any vitamin C. And that just blew my mind, the difference of the nutrition that we're taking in from food grown in healthy regenerative soil versus chemically intensive soil is just, it's such they're not even the same foods, and yet we don't really have many ways to distinguish them at a grocery store other than organic and not organic, and that's not even enough to really tell the difference to know what the difference in soil health is. So I agree. I think it's going to take everyone in the food system just to create these healthier foods. And the other part I get excited about the regenerative food system is one of the things I hear from my friends who are farmers in this system is that it does take more labor, but it's really creative work. It's figuring out how things work. And I think in terms of jobs being lost to automation, that coming back to the farm and having well-paying farm jobs where people actually get to use their creativity and be connected to the land really gets to be a career path for people now. And that's really exciting too.
And it's a wellness path, and it's a vitality path besides just a career path. I mean, our bodies were not meant to sit in chairs all day, every day, and cars and offices. Our bodies were meant to move and to exercise and do things physically, and that creates vitality. It creates better quality of life. So the stigma of low-paying labor working in the fields is silly, because we need to change that, because our farmers feed us. They're heroes. They feed us. They heal the climate. They stabilize the economy, which stabilizes everything else socially and politically and everything else. And so they really are at the base of the wellness of the entire planet. And so we have to take better care of our farmers, and there's plenty of money to do it. So a quick exercise we can do is, how many people live in your town?
2,000.
2,000 people. Okay. So you live in a really small place. That's awesome. So if there are 2,000 people in your town, do you know about how much money you spend on food every month for just you?
That's a really good question. Because I'm in food, I'm always buying different types of food, and I'm always formulating. So to actually break it down for food,
Yes.
probably about 300 a month.
Great. So that's pretty typical for most people eating reasonably well. But let's say you spent $100 a month. That would be, you probably wouldn't do that. But if you did, or you didn't have a lot of money, you might spend that little. That's about $3 a day on food. So 2,000 people spending $1,200 a year on food. So your little tiny community is spending $2.4 million a year on food. Now, if you have 20,000 people, then you're spending $24 million a year on food. If you have 200,000 people, which is not a big city, you're spending $240 million a year on food. Well, I don't know about your town, but most places in this country, they grow about 2 to 5% of what they eat within 100 miles of the whole community. So that's like 95% of that money leaving town. So what happens if we bring back half of that? Is there enough money to pay farmers better to grow really good food? Is there enough money to recirculate that money 3 times over, 5 times over, 10 times over, as we pay the farmers and they pay for things and those people pay for things, and it just keeps localizing? So it's not just a one-layer experience, it's a recirculating loop. That once we localize more of that regenerative food money, is tremendous prosperity waiting to happen in all of our communities. And a lot of communities, they die because of the soil, because they've wrecked the soil and everybody leaves. So regenerating the soil brings back trees, brings back rain and water, holds the water better, brings back people and jobs. I mean, it really is a beautiful upward spiral that we can start in all of our communities.
It really is. When I lived in Africa, I saw that firsthand, where in communities where, a few farmers were starting to become really successful in the crops they were growing, they then had money to hire people. They had money to send their kids to school. So then teachers had to be hired. Construction workers had to be hired for the schools. And you would just see how quickly this would happen in those communities where there are lots of avenues to get there, where you would have that agricultural success, but it's really a fast loop upwards, and really, really neat to watch.
It's similar to the microbiome. It's our human version of it, right? It's like it fractionalizes and differentiates and increases the flow and the circulation of all those good things. So it's really waiting for us to engage more in all of our communities so that we can do this. And it feels good and it tastes good and it does create prosperity and it creates more relationship. And so really, you know, when we think of the farm and our farmers, you know, they're symbols too of humanity's relationship with the soil that we've had for 12,000 years. And so bringing that relationship home is about learning about it, enjoying it, appreciating it, understanding it, having a relationship with your local farmers so that you let them know, you know, like, thanks for farming. Thanks for being here. You guys are heroes. You know how important you are to our planet, to our community, to our well-being, to our environment. Do you get it? It's like they're so important, and just bringing that home to our appreciation and, you know, and how we eat and how we spend our money to support that work on all those levels you just talked about. So I love talking to people like you too, and companies like Bumbleroot, because it takes all of us. It's like we're all different parts of that matrix of well-being. So it's awesome.
Well, I appreciate this conversation, and like to end with kind of a fun question about what is your most memorable meal that you've had?
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I would say it's my birthday a few years ago here in Hawaii, where I live. It was on the Big Island at that time. And both my daughters came to visit on my birthday, and they both made me dinner. And it was a simple stir fry with this vegan creamy sauce on it over rice that tasted like heaven. But it was just really fun to share it with both of them.
Aw, thank you for sharing, and thank you for taking the time to be with us here, David. How, if people want to learn more about Just One Organics or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can just go to our website, Just One, ONE is spelled out, organics.com, or they can email me, David at the parent company, unifiedfieldcorporation.com. And yeah, just see us on Facebook. We've got a Facebook page, and we're just out there and happy to be a part of the movement, because it's happening and it's very exciting right now, and we're all a part of it. So please thank all your viewers for what they're doing too, because all of us are part of this beautiful regeneration that's happening. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Enjoy your day in Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii.
All right, you too. Have a great day. Thanks, Sarah.